Hi, I'm Norman Bryson. I'm the Director of Emergency Services for Onslow County. I'm here today to talk to you about preparations for the 2020 hurricane season. As we all already know, 2020 has already been a very rough year as far as COVID-19, economic downturns, and other issues that we've had in our communities. So we're wanting to take time to talk to people about their preparation for our 2020 hurricane season. The National Weather Service has already talked to us about how it's going to be an above average year. I want to talk a little bit more about what does that mean and kind of go through what are our effects and what you can do to be prepared as we're going into this season. So first and foremost, let's talk about Onslow County and what we've seen over the years. Onslow County has seen a number of storms throughout the years. Since 1996, we've had several different storms that have affected us in the last 24 years. Some of these are names that we're very familiar with, such as Bertha and Fran, Dennis and Floyd, and we're all very familiar with Florence, which was just a few years ago, and all the devastation that we saw from that storm coming at us. Because we are so prone to having hurricanes in our areas, we have to spend a lot of times throughout our year preparing for the hurricane season. So as you can see, with the number of storms we've had, with the devastation that we've had over the number of years, it's very important to us that we talk about preparation. So what does 2020 have in store? So from the National Weather Service, the prediction that we do have is it's going to be an above normal year. What does that mean? Currently, they are predicting to have anywhere from 13 to 19 named storms in this year. Our average for named storms are 12. And when I say named storms, I'm meaning tropical depressions, tropical storms, and hurricanes. So we do have the ability to having multiple storms throughout the year. And I never want anyone to think that we can just get one storm throughout a year and that's it. Sometimes we can have multiple storms. Hurricane Dennis came in 1999. It hit us, it went back out, it circled back again and came in as a tropical storm, and then that was all a precursor for Hurricane Floyd coming in that same year. Now, other predictions that they have in this 2020 year is the number of hurricanes. They're saying that we have a potential for 6 to 10 hurricanes this year, with our average being 6. And then we have major hurricanes could be anywhere from 3 to 6. And a major hurricane is a storm with a wind rating of over 110 miles per hour. And this is getting into that Cat 3 level. Our average is 3, but they're saying we could have potential of 3 to 6 this year. So what are some of the things that may cause us to have this above normal year? Well, one of the things they're telling us is there is no El Nino weather pattern in the Pacific. And first thing you may say, well, how is the Pacific affecting the storms that come into the Atlantic? Well, with an El Nino year, it creates wind patterns that will come across from the west to the east and would create wind shear. As these storms, hurricanes that are developing off the coast of Africa or in the Caribbean are moving up in our area, that wind shear would hit them and help to tear them apart or keep them from being as strong. The other thing that we're having this year is a very warm winter. Because we had such a warm winter, the waters in the Atlantic are much warmer than what they normally are at this time of year. So with warmer waters, you have the ability to develop more storms. So these are the reasons why they're predicting that we may have an above average year this year. So one of the big complications that we're having going into this year is COVID-19. As we're still going to see COVID-19 for some time to come, it's going to still cause us to do things like social distancing, sanitation of services, and still try to work with personal protective equipment for citizens, such as face masks or having gloves. So because of COVID-19 and what we're dealing with social distancing, it will cause us to have effects into our sheltering, our feeding operations, or some of the things that we do throughout the year. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. So as we look at a hurricane, we have always heard, category, category, category. That's what our forecasters are coming to us with. They keep talking about the category of the storm. But since Hurricane Florence, we want to spend more time talking about different parts of the storm. Category is very important, but it's not the only part. When we talk about category, it is based off of wind strength. It has nothing to do with rainfall amounts or anything else. It's wind strength only. And that wind strength can be anywhere from what they call a category 1 up to the highest, which is a category 5. In the state of North Carolina, in 250 years of records, we have no record of a Category 5 hurricane striking the state of North Carolina. However, we have had 6 Category 4 in that same time period. 3 of those storms hit in the southeastern section from Wilmington all the way up to Carteret County, which each one of those would affect Onslow, and then 3 more that went into the Outer Banks areas of the state. So we can see at least Category 4 strength. Not saying 5 is impossible, but we've not had a record of one showing up. So other pieces in this storm that we want to talk about is things like storm surge. Storm surge is, as the winds of this storm is coming, it is pushing water back up into our river basins, up onto our beaches, and our intercoastal area. And as you start to also get rainfall amounts coming in and that water backs up, it allows some of these areas to even be higher. So storm surge is another key piece. It mainly affects those areas around those waterways. It's not much of an inland effect as it is right there around main bodies of water. The other piece is our rainfall totals. Hurricane Florence, we saw close to 48 inches of rain in this area. However, Hurricane Florence is not the highest record of rainfall totals that we've had in Onslow County. Over 100 years ago, with an unnamed storm, we saw almost 56 inches of rain calculated here. So we could have much higher rainfall totals in our area. And this is something that we have to be prepared for because this causes a lot of inland flooding. We saw a lot of devastation from Florence from the rainfall totals. The fourth piece of the storm that we want to talk about is duration. Hurricane Florence was over top of us with tropical storm force winds for 56 hours. That's a long time to go through with those strong winds pushing on homes, causing additional damages. And as it causes weaknesses in those homes, then it also allowed some of this rainfall to get in, which caused a lot of devastation in our area. So as we here in Onslow County talk about storms, we want to talk about all 4 of these because all 4 parts of these affects us and our citizens. So as we get into our preparation, there's several different parts that we want people to take consideration ahead of the hurricanes before we start seeing some come in this area. One is develop a plan. Have a plan in place to know what your actions are. Another piece is to have an all-hazard supply kit on hand. The next one would be prepare your home. Also know if you're in a flooding area is part of that preparation. And the fourth piece to that is your insurances. When you start talking about your insurances, what do you have your home or your vehicles insured for? Make sure that you have good insurance policies and you know what's on your property before you start getting too far into the hurricane season. Because if you have a basic insurance policy, it may not cover things like wind, hail, or flooding. So as we talk about developing a plan, one of the first places you start off with is, what am I going to do? Am I going to shelter in place, which means I'm going to stay at home throughout this storm? Am I going to go to a county shelter, or am I going to look to evacuate to another area? Each one of those is a key piece that you need to take a look at and know what your trigger points are to when you may or may not leave or which one of these you will go into effect with. As you're looking into where I may go, also you may want to get into identification of where you're going and what you're going to do. One of the things that we are recommending, and this is a change with the COVID-19, is we are recommending people to, if all possible, don't look at our county shelters. Part of the reason I say that is not because we don't want to shelter people and take care of them. It's because with the social distancing restraints that we're getting with our shelters, it's going to cause us, our shelter numbers and what we can take in to be very reduced. So we are looking to our citizens and encouraging, if you had the ability to go stay with family members, if you had the ability to go a hotel further inland and get out of this area, go ahead and have that as part of your plan. One thing we are recommending with that is also maybe you want to pre-identify a hotel or several hotels in the area so that you know where you're going and you already have a plan in place of where you may be going to, what is their contact information, and you're not rushing at the last moment. We're not recommending that you go ahead and try to make reservations now, but we are saying plan for this. Also, as you're looking at those possible other areas, look at what are some of the hazards that they may have as well. You definitely want to look, is there flooding potentials in those areas? As we saw with Hurricane Florence, we saw rain throughout the entire state of North Carolina. So it doesn't mean just because we have a hurricane that's making impact or landfall on the East Coast that it could not affect the entire state. So kind of put that in your plan to know where you're going and have a pre-plan of where it's going to be at. Other things to take a look at is make a list of things around your home that you need to take care of. About boarding up your windows. When do you want to do that? And have a time frame set up ahead of this storm. And don't look at just one certain spot. Think about these storms can move at different rates and come at different times. When do I want to board up my windows and doors? You may even want to look at go ahead and having those supplies on hand so you're not in a rush, and also competing with other people looking for these same supplies when they're trying to take care of their homes. Other things is pick up your yard items that you may have around. It only takes 80-mile-an-hour winds to pick up a 2x4 and launch it through a window. So by all means, look at things like tables, chairs, umbrellas, trash cans, any of these items that need to be picked up or secured around your home ahead of the storm coming in, and have time built into when you're going to do this and have them put in place ahead of the storm coming. Another thing is emergency contact information. Make sure you have your emergency contact information in your plan and you communicate your plan to other family members, and not just family members living in the home. Other family members or friends in the area or out of the area, make sure they know what your plan is and what you're going to be doing. So if someone starts looking for you, they have the possibilities that they know whether you went to a shelter, whether you went to a hotel, or you were going somewhere else. So make sure you communicate your plan. The all-hazard supply kit. Now, one thing that I want to start off with on this is, a lot of people have referred to this in the past as their hurricane kit. Well, we want to kind of change that name and get people more familiar with saying it's an all-hazard supply kit. And having this kit ready and prepared throughout the entire year, not just during hurricanes. And the reason I say this is with Onslow County, we do have the ability to have tornadoes, snowstorms in this area. They've not been as frequent as hurricanes. However, they still need to be prepared for. So we want people to take their opportunity to make sure they're preparing their kits. They have it all year round. So by all means, please, all hazards supply kit. With these supply kits, there's several things that we want you to look at. Now at the top, the biggest things that you're looking in the very beginning is your food and your water. We are recommending that people have 7 days worth of food and water on hand. And when you look at your water calculations, that water should be for 1 gallon of water per person per day. So please, by all means, make sure you have enough food and water on hand. For years before Hurricane Florence, we always talked about 3 to 5 days. Because of Florence and how long it lasted, we were telling people and recommending that you push out to a complete week, 7 days of having supplies on hand. Other things in your all-hazard supply kit you need is change of clothes. Make sure you have some change of clothes that are in there, that are packaged up, that you'll be able to pull out. A big piece, and this is a change coming from COVID-19, is make sure you have face masks, hand sanitizer, and gloves in your all-hazard supply kit. Again, this is one of those changes with COVID-19 to make sure you're preparing your family and keeping them prepared and making sure you're not spreading this virus. Other things is make sure you have prescription medications and a first aid kit, have 1 blanket and a sleeping bag per person, also having cleaning supplies on hand. We've seen after these major storms, there's a run on cleaning supplies because people are trying to take care of their homes, clean things up. This is one of those items we are recommending to go ahead and have on hand so that you can go ahead and start taking care of your home immediately. Other things to have in there is a battery-powered radio. We do recommend that it be marked as a NOAA weather radio. That allows you to get weather information and other updates that we may be posting. Have flashlights, extra batteries, extra set of car keys, and even have cash on hand. A lot of people don't use cash exchange anymore, but if you have a storm that comes through and it takes out your electricity and or cuts out the internet connection, the only way you may be able to buy commodities in some of these areas is with a cash exchange. So I do recommend that people have cash on hand. You also need to take in consideration any specialty need items for family members. Also items for your pets. There are also important documents that you need to have copies of and have them in your supply kit. And those items are your birth certificate, insurance paperwork, and Social Security card. Again, I can't recommend enough to people to make sure that your insurance paperwork, you know what is in that and that you have the appropriate coverages. So, one of the things we talked about in the very beginning is COVID-19 and the effects on our county sheltering. That is one of the other things that we want to spend a little bit of time talking to you today. With our CDC guidance that we have on sheltering, it has reduced the amount of people that we can take into our shelters. We want people to understand that we're going to do everything we can to protect our citizens. But this is a time when people may want to look at sheltering somewhere else other than a county shelter. Hotels is one of the things that we are recommending people where you'd be able to have your own private space. Again, we are looking at making our shelters available. It does depend on category of storm, but we are wanting to make sure people are aware that our numbers that we may be able to take in are going to be greatly reduced. It will also change our feeding operations at the shelters as well as any mass feeding that we have done before in the past. Where we used to before in our shelters, which all of our shelters are our school buildings, bring people into the cafeterias, have them get their food, and then sit down in large groups. More what you're going to see is food being brought out to people and not the same type of service or serving area with large gatherings as we've had before. Other things that we want people to be aware of, if you're coming to the shelter, there are several things that we would like for you to bring with you. Some of those are cots, sleeping bags, blankets, having one per person that's coming with you to the shelter. Have face masks, hand sanitizers, and gloves. These are some of those things going back to COVID-19 to have in preparation. Have medications, snacks, reading material and entertainment for the children, and items for your pets. In Onslow County, we do have one shelter that we've set up as a pet-friendly shelter. That's at the Jacksonville Commons Middle School whenever we do open our shelters. That is not a pet drop-off. That is a place that you come in. When you're being sheltered there, you're also there to help take care of your pet. We do recommend that you bring food and a container to place the pet in when you do come. As we go through this year, we'll be producing additional information. As we have storms approach our area, we'll be pushing information out. Some of the ways that you can get that additional information are, one, through Alert Onslow. Alert Onslow is a program that you can sign up for and be able to get information through phone call, through text messaging, or through email. To be able to get onto the Alert Onslow program, you can go to the Onslow County website and sign up for the program to get this information. With that, if you have a problem signing up online, you can contact the Onslow County Department of Emergency Services at 910-347-4270, and we will have personnel that will help you sign up for that program as well. With that program, it doesn't have to just be alerts about hazards and stuff. There's other information there that you can choose to sign up for, such items as Parks and Recs or our libraries, whenever they push out additional information about programs and items that they have going on. So by all means, we do encourage people to sign up for the Alert Onslow program to be able to gather additional information. It's also one of the main places that we put emergency alerts at. Now, other areas that you can gain this information is through NOAA weather radios, through normal radio and TV, also through social media. Onslow County does have a Facebook and Twitter account. We've been using those for years for pushing information out for hurricanes, and we do recommend individuals to join us there as well. Another place that you can get information from is the Onslow County website. You can go to www.onslowcountync.gov/emergency services and get additional information there as well. So again, I'll say www.onslowcountync.gov/emergency services. You can go there, get additional information. There's other materials there that you can see about hurricane prep as well. Also for this year, as you're developing your plan or you're trying to look or information up on COVID-19, there's several different places that you can go in referencing material. Some of these places that you can go to is the Onslow County website, one of those I just recommended. You can also go to Ready NC. There's also a site now that's just been published called Know Your Zone. Know Your Zone is about evacuation information. It is something new that we're looking at in the state of North Carolina, where we've created evacuation zones for pushing out for people to know when they can evacuate out of what area. You can go to your Know Your Zone website and see what kind of area you have been placed in your area. The other thing that you can look at is the FEMA website, American Red Cross, or CDC. I do recommend that you look at any of these websites. Make sure you get additional information for building your all-hazard supply kit or developing your plan or to get additional information on how to prepare for COVID-19. In the end, we want Onslow County and its citizens to be prepared for its hurricane seasons. Hurricanes is something that's not new to us, but hurricanes, we never know if we're going to have a light year where we don't have much effect or if we're going to have a very strong storm that comes into our area. COVID-19 has added some complications in this year, and we want everyone to be prepared. So, ladies and gentlemen, I do appreciate your time. I do thank you for watching this, and please, by all means, take some actions now and be prepared for this season. Thank you very much.